A very good evening, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all for the inauguration ceremony of Respire 2025, the 15th annual academic sessions of the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists. I would now like to request all of you to kindly rise to receive the ceremonial procession as they now will enter the main hall. The ceremonial procession will be led by traditional Sri Lankan dancers clad in cultural attire and will be carrying sesat, a traditional ornament that holds a deep spiritual and cultural significance in Sri Lankan parades, carried with reverence as a reminder of Sri Lanka's ancient traditions, symbolizing respect and honor as we commence this evening. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats to enjoy this captivating performance of traditional Sri Lankan dance, a glimpse to the rich cultural heritage we possess, a fitting way to begin an evening of such significance and grandeur. Ladies and gentlemen, now to commence tonight's formal proceedings, please rise for the national anthem of Sri Lanka.
Sri Lanka Mata, Appa Sri Lanka, Namo 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 Mata, Sundara Sri Dharini, Surani Ati Somamadha Lanka.
Ladies and gentlemen, please remain standing for the lighting of the traditional oil lamp. Keeping in line with the traditions and culture of our nation, to enlighten this evening with the blissful light of the lamp of learning, on behalf of the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists, let me cordially invite the following dignitaries to light the traditional oil lamp. President of the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists, Dr. Niranjan Dissanayake. Our chief guest this evening, Dr. Anil Jasinghe, Secretary to the Ministry of Health and Mass Media. Our guest of honor this evening, Dr. Asela Gunawardena, Director General of Health Services. Our guest of honor, Professor Anita Simmons, Professor of Respiratory and Sleep Medicine, Imperial College London. Our orator tonight, Professor David Denning. Academic Chair of SLCP, Professor Dushantha Madagedara. President-elect, Dr. Sundaralinga Mishikeshavan. Vice President of the College, Dr. Sumana Handagala. Immediate past President, Dr. Bodhika Samarasekara. Professor Makbul Ahmed Langov, Secretary General of the Pakistan Chest Society. Dr. Subarkar Khandi, Chair, International Affairs, Indian Chest Society. Dr. Mohammed Abdus Shakur Khan, Honorable Treasurer of the Bangladesh Lung Foundation. Dr. Lalita Pera Swami, Vice President of the Malaysian Thoracic Society. Professor Saman Nanayakara, Dean of the Faculty of Medicine, University of Peradeniya. Mr. Palitha Navaratna, Headmaster of St. Thomas's College, Bandaravilla. And the Honorary Joint Secretaries of the College, Dr. Sachini Seneviratna and Dr. Upul Patirana. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. May I now cordially invite the following dignitaries to take their positions at the head table. President of the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists, Dr. Niranjan Dissanayake. Our chief guest this evening, Dr. Anil Jasinghe. Guests of honor, Dr. Asela Gunawardena and Professor Anita K. Simmons. Orator tonight, Professor David Denning. Academic Chair, Professor Dushantha Madagedara. Joint Secretaries, Dr. Upul Patirana and Dr. Sachini Seneviratna. Thank you. Now I would like to invite Dr. Niranjan Dissanayake, the President of the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists for the year 2024-2025, to deliver the presidential address to this esteemed audience. Over to you, sir.
Our distinguished chief guest, Dr. Anil Jasinghe, Secretary to the Minister of Health and Mass Media, guest of honor, Director General of Health Services, Dr. Asela Gunawardena, guest of honor, Professor Anita Simmons, Consultant Respiratory Physician, Royal Brompton and Harefield NHS Trust, and Professor Emeritus, National Heart Lung Institute, Imperial College of London. Our orator for today, Professor David Dennings, Professor of Infectious Diseases in Global Health, Chief Executive, Global Action for Fungal Infections, and Professor of Infectious Diseases at University of Manchester. Professor Dushanta Madagedara, the Academic Chair and the Chair Professor of Medicine, University of Wyoming, and Consultant Pulmonologist, National Hospital Kandy. Distinguished past presidents of the college, council members, presidents and members of the other professional colleges, deans of medical faculties and academia, ministry officials, members of the Uragoda family, together with my family, distinguished invitees including the headmaster and school teachers of St. Thomas's College, Mandaravela, senior management from the industry, ladies and gentlemen. Ayubowan. May you live long. That is the blessing that we invoke in a person whom we meet in the traditional Sri Lankan time. But with this person to live longer, he should have an appropriate quality of life, or else that life that is lengthened will not be of any use to him or the society. I cannot emphasize more on the importance of having a breath, a clean breath, where you can breathe in without any hindrance, any fear that it will damage your lung. And at the same time, everybody should possess a functionally normal lung where they can live without any hindrance. Even though, as pulmonologists, we consider the lung as the center of our universe, it is truly, in a sense, it is the center of the human being. And with this in mind, I basically, when we took over the council in 2024, we thought of having this slogan where we, as Sri Lankan pulmonologists, would stand for the right of each and every citizen of Sri Lanka for the right to breathe free, devoid of polluted air, devoid of chronic lung diseases that might affect them in the long run. And hence, in my presidential address, we would like to look at the past, be at the present, and see how we can improve, and then we will forge towards a beautiful future, especially in pulmonology, where we can do immensely to uplift the patients or people's respiratory health in Sri Lanka. So, our Chief Guest, Health Secretary Sir, as well as our Director General Health Services, we have a very vibrant health system in Sri Lanka, which we all can be proud of. Our maternal mortality rates, infant mortality rates, the length of life of a woman and a man lives in Sri Lanka is almost in par with foreign countries, which has a very high GDP than us. But when you look at the respiratory health, there is a lot to improve, and I'm really proud of you to have both of you here so that we will be able to have a beautiful plan within the next few years. Now, when we look at the future, it is always important to remember our major contributors that made us this college up to this level. So this is the original document that gave birth to the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists. And you can see the stalwarts, or that means the major consultants who have been founder members of our society. And still they are with us today, advising us, advising for how to improve and creating advocacy and managing our patients in an appropriate way. And from there onwards, each and every past president of the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists did a brilliant job each year, sometimes in spite of having tremendous challenges in delivering these treatments as well as management options for our patients. So we are, you can see the star lineup of past presidents that we have, some of them who are in the audience today, and I think we should pay homage to them for the college that we are today. I'm very passionate about asthma. One of the major reasons is that, as this august audience will agree, asthma is a highly prevalent disease in Sri Lanka. Unfortunately, even though it is at the moment is highly prevalent, majority of them who have been diagnosed of asthma, unfortunately, are not properly controlled of asthma in Sri Lanka. And at the same time, we have the 10th highest death rate in the world due to asthma, even though we have very good healthcare infrastructure in place. So there are a lot of deaths due to asthma as well. So one of the reasons being that you can see in the left right corner where majority of the patients with asthma have to spend money from their hand to get the most appropriate treatment and the inhalers that they have. So we are really fortunate to have our Director General of Health Services who helped us immensely in bringing the guideline-based management of asthma treatment into the primary care setting this year. So hopefully we will be able to give our patients the best possible management for asthma during the next year, and hopefully we will be able to reduce this burden of unnecessary expense to the patients, and we can improve the asthma outcomes in this country. And one of the important things is neglecting what we call mild asthma, and then the overuse of salbutamol inhaler causing increased mortality and morbidity. And in that aspect, we wanted to educate our doctors, general practitioners, as well as our medical colleagues, and we had a beautiful program line up throughout the year where our colleagues involved in various talks on asthma and online talks on asthma to improve the knowledge base of our doctors throughout the country. Tuberculosis is considered a poor man's disease. Unfortunately, in the 1900s, we actually had, with a 2 million population in Sri Lanka, we had about 4,000 deaths of tuberculosis in 1900s. And we were able to bring it down gradually, and by 2000, we had 62 per 100,000 incidence or prevalence of tuberculosis. So due to our activities and the healthcare system, we were able to control tuberculosis to a certain extent. But since then, we are stagnating due to tuberculosis. And sir, that is one reason that we are going down in the health indices, because we have poor tuberculosis outcomes. Each day, when we offer tuberculosis treatment free of charge for each and every person in Sri Lanka, each day at least 2 or 3 patients die because of tuberculosis. So we lose about 800 patients per year who are diagnosed of tuberculosis, who can be completely treated and cured. In the context of we having low HIV-TB prevalence, and at the same time, in the context of we having very low amount of multi-drug resistant tuberculosis in our country. So this is an important aspect that we have to look into in the future. For that, I think our Director General Health Services helped us immensely in bringing out the concept of long stay wards for tuberculosis, because we saw that patients who are having tuberculosis with a low socioeconomic state were having malnutrition more than 75% of the time. They were having multiple comorbidities like uncontrolled diabetes, liver diseases, and renal functions. And these patients have multiple comorbidities, and majority of them, 50%, are above the age of 65 or 60. So these patients who are already severely ill needs proper assessment and treatment under a proper medical care. Then at least in the first 2 months, we will be able to provide them with appropriate nutritious meal, and then we will be able to look after them properly until they have at least the intensive phase is carried out forward. And one other important aspect that we have to highlight is the lack of critical care facilities to manage severe tuberculosis when they come. Even at this moment of time, in my ward in Kalutara, I have young patients who have come with severe pneumonia, lungs are completely destroyed, on inotropes, needing antibiotics, and we actually, at least in the major teaching hospitals or provincial general hospitals, if we have a critical care facility in which we can intubate, give high frequency oxygen for these patients, give intensive care for these patients, we will be able to save majority of the patients. Because none of the ICUs, because we know that in Sri Lanka we have a limited amount of ICU beds, and because of that, when a tuberculosis patient who is having acute tuberculosis goes to the ICU, they have concerns, obviously. Hence, they will not get the proper management. So if we have devoted infection control measures are taken, and if we have these ICUs or critical care facilities, I think we might be able to save most of these patients from death. Probably not all death. And at the same time, we took ourselves to educate our doctors about tuberculosis, having collaborations with HIV and sexual health disease colleagues, going out to Kandy and having a peripheral meeting under the patronage of Professor Dushanta Madagedara and our colleagues there. And we have been immensely working towards giving the knowledge and improving the attitude of tuberculosis in Sri Lanka. Not only me, the past presidents as well. COPD. There is a huge change in the management and the diagnosis of COPD in the world. And there are new guidelines that are coming, and the classifications are changing day by day. And unfortunately, we expect by 2030 to have a huge amount of COPD in the world, and it is not different in Sri Lanka as well. In the Sri Lankan context, according to the studies done by Dr. Kirti Gunasekara mainly and our colleagues, we have identified that the cohort of tuberculosis in Sri Lanka are probably not male predominant smoking cohort as in countries such as United Kingdom or USA, but we have a significant proportion of people we have females having COPD together with bronchiectasis. One of the main reasons for that is that we are exposed to biomass fuel from the young age, and these are damaging the lungs of females who have never even taken a cigarette into their mouth. And these patients have very poor outcomes, and because they have a lot of comorbidities with them. And until recently, we actually didn't have the most ideal treatment for COPD. Probably up to about 2 years, we were managing them with the same way that we were managing asthma and asthma as well, with steroids sometimes. But during the last 2 years, we were able to introduce tiotropium into the healthcare system. And this year, we were able to introduce metered dose inhaler for tiotropium under your patronage and guidance. So hopefully, within the next year, we will be able to improve our patients' outcome in COPD. And at the same time, we were improving the knowledge base of doctors, having collaborations throughout. And I'm happy our colleagues from the College of Physicians as well as the internal medicine colleagues are here. And we together, we can do miracles in controlling COPD. Not only the chronic COPD, by bringing in drugs. And this year, we were able to actually initiate the bringing of long-acting bronchodilators as well as long-acting muscarinic combinations as well as triple inhalers, probably not in the government sector, but at least in the private sector. It will be hopefully available with the help of our industry within the next year, and we will be able to change completely the outcomes of COPD patients together with pulmonary rehabilitation. I'm proud to say that most of our colleagues have started pulmonary rehabilitation, which is a guideline-proven mechanism where you can improve outcomes, especially in the Colombo Chest Clinic as well as in National Hospital Galle, as well as various parts of our country. We have been able to initiate pulmonary rehabilitation clinics, and the outcomes have been improved as well. In the acute management of COPD also, we have been having a lot of workshops to improve the knowledge of these doctors on NIV, non-invasive ventilation, and hence we have been able to reduce a significant amount of morbidity as well as mortality in patients with COPD and other disease. Bronchiectasis is unfortunately in Sri Lanka at most of the instances due to a sequelae of tuberculosis. So I think that if we control tuberculosis properly in Sri Lanka, these young people who have bronchiectasis and severe lung disease, we will be able to reduce the number of people who are having bronchiectasis. But at the same time, there are many, many other causes, and having advanced investigative facilities, as well as, again, physiotherapy input, trained physiotherapist, respiratory physiotherapist with us will help immensely in rehabilitating these patients, as well as rehabilitation hospitals or clinics if we start on that. Again, air pollution, the silent killer. According to the WHO statistics and calculations, 7 million people die prematurely each year due to air pollution. And Sri Lanka is not far away from that. It is basically a silent killer. And there are 4 main areas where air pollution occur: industry, transport, waste disposal, as well as energy, and in the household where we use biomass fuel. So if we can address those aspects properly, identify each and every area, we can improvise and reduce the burden of air pollution by each and every aspect. I think we will be able to have a very good outcomes in the patient, and we have done a lot of advocacy during the last year to bring this up. Interventional pulmonology is another important area that we have improved markedly during the last 10 to 15 years. Our colleagues who are trained in the state-of-the-art centers throughout the world, in the United Kingdom, in Australia, India, and Singapore, and other countries, are very, very conversant or very, very skillful in managing these complicated patients and advanced procedures that they do. And we, under our umbrella, we have the very competent thoracic surgeons with us who work with us in hand to hand to develop patients' outcomes and improve patient outcomes, especially in the area of thoracic oncology and other conditions which we need the surgeon's hand to help us out in certain instances. So we didn't stop there. We were interested about the maternal health. Especially when we talk about maternal health, if you look at the maternal mortality data in Sri Lanka, respiratory diseases comes 1 or 2 in certain years due to infections, uncontrolled asthma, and pneumonias being the most important aspect. So we identified this gap, and we had a collaborative workshop with our colleagues with obstetrician and gynecology on maternal respiratory health, a full day course where we were able to develop beautiful collaborations, and at the moment we are actually contemplating in recommending hopefully all pregnant ladies with the influenza vaccine, because it is one of the major causes of morbidity and mortality in pregnancy in Sri Lanka, but unfortunately we don't provide it in the EPI at the moment, but hopefully we can do studies and implement that aspect as well. Then we had critical care. With our colleagues with critical care medicine, we had a beautiful workshop, one-day workshop on critical care, improving the knowledge base of our colleagues as well as our patients. And then with marked collaborations throughout the year, we were able to have a beautiful academic program. We were traveling to Ampara, about 300 miles away. We were traveling to Vavuniya. We were traveling to Puttlam. We were traveling to Galle. We were traveling to Kandy. So during the last year, we had a lot of peripheral meetings as well. So it not only helped to educate our peripheral doctors, and they would probably never heard the thoracic surgeon in front of them talking. For example, in Vaunia, we had 4 thoracic surgeons talking in front of them. Right. So we had a lot of support from our colleagues in the council as well as our membership, where we were able to go there. Sometimes we started around 8 p.m. in the night, reach at around 4 a.m. in the morning, do the lectures at about 8 a.m. to 1 a.m. And after that, we have a little bit of a camaraderie going to places that we would enjoy as well, and then come back. Sometimes we don't have that time, but the amount of effort and the sacrifices that our colleagues did in conducting these peripheral events are immense, and they have borne fruit. We have overhauled the complete college website, and it is now fully functional, and we were able to do it, and actually most of the registrations, we were able to do it online, and we have the college journal there, which we'll be launching in a few moments, and then we have various types of data, who we were, and if anyone would love to learn about pulmonologists in Sri Lanka, so I would invite them to visit our website. So I am here today because of several institutions and several people. I was born in Badulla, and it's said that I was a forceps delivery in 1975. But our healthcare system was developed even at that time to have me delivered, hopefully without any complications. So we had this free health system, and at the same time, we had the education system. I'm a proud product of St. Thomas's College, Bandarawela, from pre-grade up to the A-level. And we have another alumni from St. Thomas's College, Bandarawela, Dr. Kirti Gunasekara. He is one of my idols up to the O-levels, and then he actually started at Royal College, Colombo. So already has produced 2 pulmonology presidents and 1 CCP, College of Physicians presidents. So this college gave me everything. It was a Christian college. There was no discrimination. I was in the choir. I was in the Bhaktigi. I was given the house captain post. I was given the senior prefect post. I was adjudged the best actor. I was adjudged the best all-rounder in this school without any discrimination of me being a Buddhist. And I'm thankful for my college and its teachers, whom I'm really glad to have in the audience, the headmaster, as well as one of the most senior teachers, Dr. Manchanayaka, who taught me art. Then, in the year 92, after O-levels, I came for an exhibition in the Peradeniya Medical Faculty. And that is the time that I thought I would somehow come to the Peradeniya Medical Faculty. And I have thoroughly enjoyed each and every moment at Peradeniya. And I think there are many august audience, including Professor Madagedara and many on the podium today, who are proud alumni of the Peradeniya Medical Faculty. And some are actually teachers like Duminda, who are currently teaching the students there. So again, I'm happy to have and proud to have the Dean, who came all the way from Kandy to grace this occasion together with his lovely wife, Dr. Indu, and thank you very much for being here. So, you can see a familiar face. So, I was under Dr. S. Mangaleshwaran as a house officer. I learned a lot from him. Then, as a registrar, I was under Dr. Harith Vimaratna. I unfortunately, with the busy schedule, I couldn't find photographs of them. I'm sorry about it. But then my life changed. So I was under Professor Dushanta Madagedara, my mentor as a senior registrar in respiratory medicine, who have taught me everything I know, probably the attitudes as well, sir. And so we are trying to, I would like to pay homage especially to them, and I'm really proud to share the same podium with you, sir, today. And I had the opportunity of learning from actually he was from Malaysia, who went to United Kingdom, Professor Santi Vadinan, who guided me during my foreign training at Worcestershire. So I will not be here if not for my staff from various hospitals. I was actually started my consultant career in District General Hospital in Nuwara, far away, then to Badulla, which I was proud of because I was serving my hospital which I was born, then Ratnapura. I think Sir is very familiar with it, but Ratnapura, I think your hometown, Sir, right? And then after that, now in Kalutara. So each and every staff member, I would love to remember with gratitude, and they are my family away from home. Right? So whatever we do, we need support. So I would like to mention, because I think people who support selflessly, without any hidden agendas, should be appreciated. Mr. Mayadunne, Takshila, Janaka, Chintaka, and all his teams, including the photographs that I have put. Thank you very much for standing beside me during the last year and helping me amongst many other colleagues from the industry who has helped me. So this is a tribute to you. And I can't say enough to say thank you to all my colleagues who have been supportive to me throughout the years. So I was a weekend father, sometimes not even a weekend father, to my children. But I hope that they understand. And I'm happy that they are making me proud by achievements. And at the moment, we have actually, my son is doing well in computer science, and the daughter has made me proud by being the second president at my home. But I think that Nilanthi is having a tough time. Nilanthi is my ardent critique, my best friend, and my guide wire. In every problem I face, I usually give a call to her and tell her that. And usually he guides me, and he by herself academically achieved the maximum being a professor of microbiology while looking after 2 children and bringing them up to a level that both of us can be proud of. So I don't get the chance to say thank you, because I don't usually say thank you, but it's the chance, I think. Right. So my mother, Chandra Galeyarachi Disanayaka, my late father, Mr. Senarath Disanayaka. They guided me, they nurtured me to this level, together with my brothers and sisters. I have 4 beautiful sisters and 1 very talented brother, who unfortunately I only have 1 sister today in Sri Lanka, but all the others are at foreign countries, but they are doing well. I'm happy of the family that I had. But at the final aspect, I would like to say this. Without this gentleman, Mr. C.W.W. Kannangara, most of us will not be here today. Even my father, which I showed you previously, is a proud product of Poramadulla Madhya Mahavidyalaya. It's in Hanguranketa, and he is a proud product of that. He learned, he flourished because of the Madhya Mahala system, and because of that, he was able to give us a good education. And most of us, when we look at our histories, either us or our mothers or fathers have benefited from the free health system as well as the free education system that Sri Lanka has provided. And thankfully, because of them, because of the free healthcare system as well as the free education system, we are standing here today. And for that, I have a tremendous gratitude to these stalwarts as well as the population of Sri Lanka. My countrymen and women, from each kilo of rice, they have contributed to my education, to my health. And that is why we in Sri Lanka today try to pay back as much as possible in the best possible way that we can, achieving the heights that we were able to do and delivering a care that is none second to world standards. And with that, I would like to end my presentation. And hopefully you will have a fascinating, entertaining, and educationally stimulating Respire 2025. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir, for your comprehensive reflection of the past year and for sharing those wonderful sentiments. Ladies and gentlemen, next, to signify South Asian collaboration, building bridges across nations, we'd like to take a moment to acknowledge and appreciate the invaluable support we receive from the regional partners in our collaborative efforts in respiratory care. While we thank you all for endorsing our sessions, we are delighted to have representatives from these nations present with us today. To begin with, I would now like to invite Professor Maqbool Ahmad Langov, the Secretary General of the Pakistan Chest Society, to speak a few words.
Thank you. Honorable chairpersons, distinguished guests, respected colleagues and friends, it's a great honor for me to stand before you today as a General Secretary of Pakistan Chess Society at Respire 2025. Respire is a remarkable forum where we gather to share knowledge, strengthen alliances, and advance of pulmonology for the benefit of our community. The theme of my talk, Collaboration of South Asia and Building Bridges Across Nations, is relevant more than ever. The challenges we face don't recognize the borders. The challenges like air pollution, COPD, asthma, TB, as discussed earlier by the President, they are shared concern of the area. And these challenges demand a unified, united response. A response that transcends the political differences, the national boundaries, and instead focusing on the well-being of over 1.9 billion people of this region. Why this collaboration is required? As in the presentation of President, I saw all the topics which were presented were the same as we were suffering in Pakistan. So we have the common problems. South Asian countries carries disproportionate burden of the respiratory diseases. So by collaboration on research, on clinical guidelines, treatment protocols, so we can ensure that every person will receive evidence-based and high-quality care. So air pollution, a silent killer. South Asian countries host some of the most polluted cities in the world, like Lahore, Delhi, which are affecting millions of the people. So by joint regional policies to reduce the emissions, improve the air quality, raising the awareness campaigns can have the lasting impact on the respiratory related problems, diseases. Again, the pandemics have taught us that the diseases do not respect the borders, like COVID, monkeypox. So these diseases have highlighted the need of collaboration. So collaboration will definitely help us out in coping with these diseases. We can share the real-time data. We can discuss the preparedness, regional preparedness, and coordinated responses. So in this way, we can exchange information faster and implement the timely intervention. So in this regard, what can we do? Especially in academic and research participation. So establishing or developing South Asian Research Consortium to work on multi-center trials, real-world studies, and AI-driven solutions. Again, we can develop regional guideline treatments that is tailored to our needs, especially for population genetics and socioeconomic conditions, environmental conditions. They should be tailored. So we should not depend on the other countries' guidelines. So that's why this academic collaboration is necessary. Again, in training and building capacities, by exchanging programs for fellowships, researchers, pulmonologists, that brings the researchers and environmental scientists and pulmonologists together. Even by conducting joint CMEs, seminars, conferences, to enhance the skills in bronchoscopy, interventional pulmonology, critical care medicine. Also, we can create a shared platform for telemedicine and remote consultation. So expertise of one area can guide or help the complex cases of another area. And again, the public health initiatives are also necessary. Launching tobacco cessation campaigns and raising awareness campaigns at regional level. Again, as the air pollution is a big concern of these South Asian countries, so South Asian Air Control Action Plan can help us out in coping with this air pollution. Today, I urge each one of you to move beyond the national boundaries and embrace collaboration. Pakistan Chess Society is ready to play a key role in shaping a unified regional health agenda for this region. So let's join hands, build bridges, and forge a future where no one suffer from the preventive lung diseases just simply because of where they are born. So thank you from my end.
Thank you very much, sir. Could you please remain on stage to accept this token of appreciation presented to you by the President of the College, signifying our collaborative efforts. Thank you very much. Next, I have the honor of inviting Dr. Subhakar Khandi, Chair, International Affairs of the Indian Chest Society, to speak a few words.
Good evening. I'm not from Kandy. My last name is Kandy. Actually, when asked why my last name is Kandy, my forefathers are from the Kandy place in Sri Lanka. So I have some association with this Sri Lanka. Respected President of the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists, Dr. Niranjan Disnayake, Chief guest of today's evening, the Secretary for Health, Dr. Anil, a good friend of India, Dr. Dushyant, is there always with us in every conferences, the Anita Siemens, the guest of honor, and other dignitaries on the dais. At the outset, I thank you for inviting me to this Respire 2025. On behalf of the Indian Chess Society, it gives me an immense pleasure to extend our heartfelt congratulations and warm wishes on the eve of this spectacular event, Respire 2025. This landmark event not only underscores the college's unwavering commitment to the advancing field of pulmonary medicine, but also serves as an inspiration to the global respiratory community. India and Sri Lanka share the geographic and climatic similarities impacting the respiratory health care. I think we have widely elaborated various respiratory health problems in Sri Lanka. We too have the same respiratory problems. Today, the world is a global village. And there is a cross-border transmission of infections. And it needs a concerted effort. Hence, we have comparable healthcare respiratory challenges calling for a collective action. It is in this spirit of shared purpose we should take a historic step forward. I must thank you for coming up with this proposal of formalizing a consortium of two nations. I think we have to extend, in fact, Indian Chess Society is extending this consortium to other SAARC countries also, because the problems are same of all the SAARC countries. So we have to extend this to other countries also. I will take the initiative in bringing the other countries also to this consortium from Indian Chess Society. The vision of this consortium is to create a unified, collaborative, pioneering research platform that brings together pulmonologists from both the nations in advancing the respiratory health care through research, innovation, education, and policy advocacy. This mission of this consortium is to establish the first ever regional consortium of pulmonologists from both the nations. Of course, now other nations are also joining this consortium to have a synergistic research tailored to the unique respiratory challenges, strengthening the regional healthcare infrastructure through organizing joint training programs, workshops, and academic initiatives. I understand from your presentation there is a gray area, there is infrastructure in the critical care is not up to the mark in Sri Lanka. We can also work together how to bring the infrastructure, particularly the same problem for post-TB sequelae and TB infections. You must have a dedicated the ICU care, the infective ICUs. And one more area is the interventional pulmonology. I boast myself today, Hyderabad is the world capital of interventional pulmonology. Simultaneously, there one international event is going on in Hyderabad. I am supposed to be there, but I have committed to Niranjan. I have attended this program. The mission is to establish the first ever regional consortium of pulmonologists from both the nations to foster synergistic research tailored to the unique respiratory challenges, strengthening the regional healthcare infrastructure. This consortium also aims to establish a regional think tank. You have to develop a regional think tank to advocate region-specific guidelines and policies. I think my friend also has enlightened this, the need for having a concerted guidelines of the regional guidelines. We should not follow the national guidelines given by the European societies and American Thoracic Society, which may not be relevant to our region. You must have a region-specific guidelines to develop, and we will be there with you in formulating those guidelines. And we also look forward to bring out a journal. I think I am very happy to know that you are coming out with the journal. You can have a regional consortium journal together, and it carries more weightage. We can have a regional journal, pulmonary medicine, to publish the groundbreaking research of this consortium. This consortium envisages to develop online teaching programs, fellowships for young pulmonologists, to bridge the gaps in expertise and technology adoption. I have also an idea to explore the opportunity to liaison with the governments. I am very happy to know that your government is very proactive. So, to implement policies on air pollution, tobacco cessation, and early detection and prevention of pulmonary diseases. It was unfortunate to know that even in this era also, I came to know that people are dying from asthma. Asthma is such a preventable disease in spite of that. And TB also, the people are dying. I think we have to address these issues, the regional consortium. This initiative will also strive for enhancing the public awareness. I think, Niranjan, there's a public awareness because saying that people are using the relievers instead of using a combination of, and not only the relievers, some people still taking tablets, they are averse to take inhaled medications. I think this can be achieved only through public awareness and community engagement. I look forward to meaningful and valuable connections during this phenomenal event, Respire 2025, which provides to enhance our collective understanding and improve patient care across the Southeast Asia. As we collaborate the achievements and milestones of Sri Lankan College of Pulmonologists during this Respire 2025, I reaffirm with all the emphasis at my command, we'll move with you shoulder to shoulder in bringing a respiratory health-free problems. Wishing Respire a tremendous success and looking forward working closely with you to make the proposed consortium a reality. Let us work together. I think I come with the theme of the conference, the equity in respiratory health for a right to breathe free. I think we have a right, it's a fundamental right to breathe, and to create a lasting impact on millions of lives. Thank you. Jai Bharat, Jai Sri Lanka.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable sentiments. I would also like to ask you to remain on stage to receive this token of appreciation presented to you by the President of the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists. Thank you. And next, representing regional partners, I would like to invite Dr. Mohammed Abdus Shakur Khan, the treasurer of the Bangladesh Lung Foundation, to speak a few words to this audience.
Honorable Chief Guest, Secretary of Health Affairs, Sri Lanka, respected President, Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists, guest of honor, other dignitaries on the stage, and definitely learned audience in front of me. It is my great pleasure to be here as the special guest and invited from the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonology by the President, and give me a scope to say something in this August gathering. Bangladesh Lung Foundation, that what I belong, that is my organization, it is the umbrella organization in Bangladesh among the pulmonologists. We have good number of pulmonologists in my country, but we have so many challenges to combat the lung diseases and challenges what our president of this college already mentioned. The challenges are also same in my country. Challenges in treating or managing the diseases, respiratory diseases, as well as challenge is the climate change and the air pollution also. We actually works on lung health, but it's a big field because at least 5 to 6 major diseases of lung we are facing terrible problem, big problems regarding the management and supplying the support, that is the drug and others. As because in my country, almost more than 70% people are getting support, health support from the private sector, government only 30%. It is big problem for us because already previous two speakers along with Mr. President mentioned that there are so many problems in managing and defining all types of health related, actually lung health related problems. Being the regional country, Bangladesh also facing many more problems, what Mr. President already described here. I don't want to elaborate my speech more, but one thing Bangladesh Lung Foundation believes that knowledge is power, experience always strengthens the power. But if this knowledge and experience remain within ourselves, then nobody will get the more benefit from this knowledge and experience. As because we are the people in same region where we share same type of environment, same type of air quality, same type of almost management and the government support. So we need more collaboration among our countries
like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, India, and other our regional countries. Before joining this program, I have heard and I become happy to know that you were thinking to form a regional body who will work together, share their knowledge among themselves, and will do for future planning for combating this disease problem as well as this pollution and other related regional problems. Yes, disease does not limit it within the boundaries. Many more diseases spread among the boundaries, and from one country to another country, this disease spread. But until now, what we are doing, actually, our country, like Bangladesh, we are following some guideline of the common or major diseases in my country that is originated from Europe, America, UK, etc. But we are the country, these countries have some dissimilarity with that first world countries. And we have similar economy also. Similar support from the public sector, that is the government sector, we are getting. So, we need to enrich ourselves. How it is possible? Yes, Lung Foundation, since its birth, it works on lung health to develop the disease management protocol, study protocol, so many surveillance and studies we have conducted. But this is widespread in my country, but there is not such body to share our friend countries in this region. In this regard, I strongly believe if there is a body where our friend countries of similar environment take and work together for this problem and for future program, then we will get benefit and we all together will win in this situation. Bangladesh Lung Foundation is ready to join such type of platform where there is good bridging, where there is good hope, where there is good future, and where there is a chance of exchange of knowledge, experience. What I mentioned earlier, knowledge is power, experience strengthens the power, and without dissemination of knowledge and experience, it will not be such type of flourishment. So we need to gather knowledge ourselves, we need to gather experience ourselves, and ultimately sharing it among our friend countries. I must thank again the organizations who are responsible for this August ceremony, that is Respire 2025. And I must thank Mr. President again to invite me and honor me and my organization, Bangladesh Lung Foundation. I must wish the good success, best success of Respire 2025. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for sharing your thoughts and best wishes with us. Please do stay to accept this token of appreciation signifying our partnership and friendship for the future. Thank you. And finally, I would now like to invite the Vice President of the Malaysian Thoracic Society, Dr. Lalita Perasamy, to receive a special token of appreciation acknowledging the relationship and collaboration between the two colleges by the President of the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists, Dr. Niranjan Dissanayake. Thank you very much to all our regional leaders who came on board and shared their valuable insights with the audience today. Next, ladies and gentlemen, is the address by the guest of honor this evening, Professor Anita K. Simmons, Professor of Respiratory Medicine and Sleep Medicine, Imperial College London. To introduce our guest speaker to this esteemed audience, I would like to invite Dr. Sachini Seneviratne, Joint Secretary of the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies about my voice in advance. So it is my great pleasure to introduce to you Professor Anita Simmons, who is an icon in the field of respiratory medicine. So she is currently serving as an honorary consultant respiratory and sleep physician at the Royal Brompton and Harefield Hospitals. She is the Emeritus Professor of Respiratory and Sleep Medicine of National Heart and Lung Institute, Imperial College London. She is also the Harvey Librarian of the Royal College of Physicians. So she has been the author of many publications and has produced many guidelines and is truly one of the world authorities in non-invasive ventilation. Thank you so much for gracing us with your presence today. We would love to hear a few words from you. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed for that introduction. It's a huge pleasure and honour to be here, and I too must thank our President, Dr. Dissanayake, the whole of the organising committee, our past presidents, members of council, and of course guests and esteemed members of the audience. This is an absolutely fantastic congress. The programme committee deserves an award, I think, and we're looking forward to 2 days of cutting-edge pulmonology, and I'm also very much looking forward to the lecture on aspergillosis that's coming up shortly. On a personal note, I took part yesterday in a workshop on non-invasive ventilation in neuromuscular disease and chest wall disease, which was expertly organised by Drs. Widana and Wadasinghe. And I really enjoyed the enthusiasm and knowledge of the participants. It was also a particularly important workshop because it was the combined endeavours of the College of Pulmonology and the Association of Neurologists, and we had adult and paediatric neurology colleagues there, and great discussions afterwards. I hope we can take that forward tomorrow morning for a session at 7 a.m. when we're discussing streamlining home ventilation management with colleagues, working together on best delivery options to improve non-invasive ventilation for Sri Lankan patients. What I'd like to do now is briefly cover two historical aspects. We've heard a lot about the very important topics of air pollution, smoking cessation, lung cancer, asthma and COPD, and very eloquently discussed. But as you just heard, I recently took up the role of a Harveian librarian at the Royal College of Physicians, London. It's not quite being a librarian. You have access to the ancient books, but also to the museum and importantly to the archives. And so I took the opportunity to look in the archives and see what was there of information from the past over the last few centuries between our countries, Sri Lanka and the United Kingdom. Not surprisingly, there was a lot there to see. There were fantastic records, in fact, dating back to the late 1700s and 1800s, looking at comparative data from hospitals across Sri Lanka on malaria, also on mental health disorders. Also, you won't be surprised to hear that what I came across pretty quickly was the work of Dr. Chris Gunasdaza Uragoda, who is memorialised in the inaugural lecture today. Sadly, as we know, he died in 2020. But he truly was a polymath. He was a pulmonologist who had a special interest in occupational lung disease following exposure to cinnamon, graphite, sulfur dioxide, and ilmenite. And of course, as you all know, it's strange for me to be telling you this, but I think there are some important messages, perhaps for our guests and visitors here. He wrote the seminal textbook, The History of Medicine in Sri Lanka, which was published in 1987. And he was managed to weave in not only Western aspects of medicine, but also traditional cures and cares. And he was a wise folklorist a really early pioneer of conservation. I know virtually everyone in the audience will also know about some of his magnificent detective work, particularly in a story almost worthy of Sherlock Holmes, in discovering why some of his pulmonary TB patients experience regular episodes of flushing, urticaria, headache, and palpitations, but these were occurring regularly on certain days of the week. And he was able to identify that these were patients who were on isoniazid, and isoniazid actually blocks monoamine oxidase and also some of the histamineases, and that was why when they ate on a particular day of the week skipjack tuna with high levels of histamine, they experienced these symptoms, and much other really brilliant work that he did. Also in the archives, I came across the story of the opening of the Ceylon Medical College in 1893, and also very early on, the first female medical graduate of that college, who started right at the beginning, and she qualified as the first female licentiate in 1898, and went on to work briefly and study in Scotland, where she became a member of the Royal College of Physicians and Surgeons, and then came back to Sri Lanka and worked in a new women's hospital for the rest of her life. This is Hilda de Boer. She was of mixed Burgher and Sri Lankan heritage, and not only did she work for the rest of her life in that women's hospital, but she devoted most of her time to the training and education of others. And that was a first female in medicine, but also there's so much that Sri Lanka has done with first amazing work in public health medicine, where you've been a pioneer, not least in the brilliant work in malaria eradication. And also I was hearing too really high rates of vaccination in Sri Lanka. My last point is, I don't think anyone appreciates long speeches, is that the subtitle of this conference is Equity in Respiratory Health for the Right to Breathe, and this is so important. With the European Respiratory Society, we've been working with the World Health Organization on a report on chronic respiratory disease, since surprisingly there has not been a recent report on chronic respiratory disease. There have been many on cardiovascular disease, obesity, and so on. This report is due publication in the spring this year, but as we know, the WHO is under threat with its funding, and so I'm not clear what's going to happen with that publication. Also under threat are activities with our colleagues at the Centre for Disease Prevention and Control, the NIH, and other aid organizations worldwide. So I think all the more reason for us to work together at this fantastic conference in the best interests of our respiratory patients. Thank you again. Bahona is Thuthi. Thank you.
Madam, please accept this little token symbolizing a lot that Sri Lanka holds, especially if you go out and see the beautiful wildlife we offer, as a reminder of your visit, as a fond little gift that you can cherish when you go home. And thank you very much for bringing out this little gems of history and for stimulating this conversation for the future. Thank you once again. Next, ladies and gentlemen, we have the address by Dr. Asila Gunawardena, Director General of Health Services, as our guest of honor this evening. I would now like to invite Dr. Upul Pathirana, the Joint Secretary of the College, to introduce him.
Thank you very much. So it is my pleasure to introduce our second guest of honor, Dr. Asila Gunawardena, Director General of Health Services. Dr. Asila Gunawardena, an alumnus of Badulla Uva College and Badulla Central College, excelled in both academics and sports, including hockey and cricket. He entered the University of Peradeniya in 1984, completing his medical education while earning university colors throughout his undergraduate years. Dr. Gunawardena began his medical career as a district medical officer in Badalkumbura in 1994. He has held several key positions in healthcare, including medical officer of health, regional malaria officer, regional director of health services, medical superintendent of base hospital, and directors of teaching hospitals. He holds a master degree in medical administration as well as diplomas and master degrees in Buddhist studies and also business administration. He is currently pursuing a PhD in Buddhist studies. Dr. Gunawardena has received both local and international training in various fields, significantly contributing to his work in developing healthcare systems and institutions. He has won numerous national and international productivity awards and is one of the most senior medical administrators in this country, with extensive experience in both preventive and curative healthcare sector. It is now my privilege to invite Dr. Gunawardena to share a few words with us. Over to you, sir.
Good evening to all of you. Today's chief guest, Dr. Anil Jasinga, Secretary to the Health Ministry and the Mass Media, and the guest of honor, Professor Anita Simmons, keynote speaker, Professor David Deming, and all the other guests from overseas, and Dr. Niranjan Disanayake, the President of College of Pulmonologists, and the Secretary to the College, and Professor Dushantha Madagidara, the Senior Professor of Medicine, University of Wayamba, and all the other past presidents, council members, all the ministry officials, all the other professional colleges representatives, all the UN representatives, all the professors, all the consultants, medical officers, and all the media people, ladies and gentlemen. It is both an honor and a privilege to stand before you today as the guest of honor at Respire 2025. This gathering is a testament to our shared commitment to a world where every individual, regardless of their background, has the right to breathe freely and live healthy life. The theme of this year's conference, Equality in Respiratory Health for Right to Breathe Free, resonates deeply with me. Breathing is most fundamental act of life, yet for millions around the world, it remains a daily struggle. Air pollution, occupational hazards, lack of access to healthcare, and socio-economic disparities have created a world where the simple act of breathing is not a universal right, but a privilege for some. Respiratory diseases are significant global health concern which pose a complex challenge impacting societies, healthcare, and economics of the worldwide. Conditions like chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, COPD, asthma, pneumonia, and tuberculosis contribute significantly to illnesses and healthcare costs. From 1990 to 2090, total deaths and prevalence of chronic respiratory diseases have increased by 28% and 39% respectively. Based on the latest data available in 2019, the chronic respiratory diseases were the third leading cause of death globally, responsible for 4 million deaths and affecting nearly 500 million people. COPD and asthma are the most common among them. COPD alone account for 3.3 million deaths. It is estimated that number of COPD cases among those aged 25 years and older will increase by 23% from 2020 to 2050, approaching the figure 600 million patients with COPD by 2050. Further, the diseases of infectious nature, such as lower respiratory tract infections, COVID-19, and tuberculosis, are among top 10 leading causes of mortality in the past few years. We shouldn't forget that the infectious disease with epidemic and pandemic potential continue to be the global health challenge. In the last century, influenza originated avian, swine, severe acute respiratory syndrome, coronavirus, and the Middle East respiratory syndrome, MERS, were the most damaging respiratory infections for human beings all over the world. The global trends in infectious respiratory diseases in 2023 indicated that SARS, influenza, and respiratory syncytial virus were co-circulating widely, though it varied among different WHO regions. It is worthwhile to note in 2023, the total of 1.25 million people died from tuberculosis, while 8.2 million were newly diagnosed with the disease. TB has secured its position being the world leading cause of deaths from a single infectious agent back following 3 years, which it was replaced by coronavirus disease, that is COVID-19. Tuberculosis was also the leading killer of people with HIV and major cause of deaths related to antimicrobial resistance. Respiratory disease have a major impact on Sri Lankan health system. Together, chronic respiratory diseases, pneumonia, caused the highest number of hospital deaths in 2017. The burden of lung diseases, the BOLD survey revealed an overall prevalence of chronic obstructive pulmonary, that is COPD, was 10.5% among Sri Lankan adults aged over 40 years. Around 17,000 men who are reported to have cancers annually, 10% are having lung cancers. Further, despite commendable progress in our healthcare, tuberculosis remains a significant public health challenge with an estimated incidence rate of 63 per 100,000 population. That means 14,000 cases per year. The case notification rate has been stagnated over the years between 8,500 to 9,500, indicating around 5,000 undetected cases over total estimated TB cases. The rising problem of poor air quality is claimed to be responsible for the rise of respiratory disease, namely obstructive lung diseases, bronchial asthma, interstitial pneumonitis, and lung cancers. We all have witnessed the past few weeks when the smoke entered our airspace, making the air quality not conducive for general population. Even today, the index is 153. This has increased the hospital admissions significantly, causing an additional threat to already stretched health system. Indoor air pollution emerges as a threat in rural communities where firewood is used for cooking in poor ventilated kitchens, leading to late onset wheezing among non-smoking women from rural communities. We understand that the prevention and control of respiratory diseases needs a multi-pronged approach. Government commitment, increased domestic funding, and workforce strengthening of primary health care are mandatory components that should be focused. Preventive, curative, rehabilitative, and palliative care should be streamlined and make accessible and acceptable to people, ensuring universal health coverage as depicted by this year's theme, Equity in Respiratory Health for the Right to Breathe Free. With primary and secondary healthcare strengthening projects, we will continue to address these important aspects. We witnessed a revolution in the practice of respiratory medicine in Sri Lanka. It is happy to see specialists in respiratory medicine could be able to provide their expert knowledge and services throughout the country. I would like to emphasize that tuberculosis is one of the diseases which sets target under the SDG goal in 2030 and NTB in 2035. It is also an important indicator that measures UHC, that is universal health coverage. I make this opportunity to request the respiratory consultant and all the respiratory community to provide their support in TB case finding and to improve treatment outcomes, which are most important at this juncture. Nothing could be achieved without stakeholder collaboration. I believe that prevention and control of respiratory diseases could only be achieved through the whole of society, whole of government approach. Health alone cannot make any significant change. We should collaborate and coordinate with animal health and environmental sectors while networking with all other relevant sectors. Most importantly, generating public awareness and empowering the public to look after their own health. The health of the community to which they belong is paramount important to reducing the disease burden of respiratory origin. Finally, let's be vigilant. Strengthening our environmental monitoring, including air quality, is crucial as the impact of climate change could be deadly in future. Investment in continuous surveillance on pandemic diseases, both in human and animal health sector and at the point of entry, is mandatory to generate early alert for pandemic prevention, whereas preparedness should be the high on the list to avoid the history to be repeated. The government has taken many steps, including securing funds to improve surveillance, preparedness, and response. I trust the College of Pulmonologists and the membership will extend your support to the momentum to prevent, control, and eliminate respiratory diseases with different potential. Thank you for your dedication, your passion, and your unwavering commitment to this cause. Let us leave here today inspired to take action, to breathe life into our shared vision, and to ensure that the right to breathe free become a reality for all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your valuable thoughts and for gracing this occasion tonight. Please accept this token of appreciation by the college as a mark of our appreciation and acknowledgement. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, ladies and gentlemen, is the address by the chief guest this evening, Dr. Anil Jasinghe. I would like to invite the president of the college, Dr. Niranjan Dissanayake, to introduce him to this esteemed audience.
It is indeed a pleasure to invite you, sir, and to welcome you and to introduce you to this august audience. And I know that you really don't need an introduction. Dr. Anil Jasinghe is a visionary leader with a distinguished career in healthcare and environmental stewardship, who significantly contributed to Sri Lanka's development and global advocacy. Currently, he serves as the Secretary to the Ministry of Health and Mass Media. Prior to this, he was the Senior Additional Secretary and the Chief Executive Officer of Sri Lanka's Climate Change Office at Presidential Secretariat. From 2020 to 2023, as Secretary of the Ministry of Environment, Dr. Jasinghe achieved major milestones, including amending the National Environment Act, formulating the National Environment Policy, and implementing the National Environment Action Plan 2022 to 2030. His advocacy for sustainability led to Sri Lanka's endorsement of the Sustainable Nitrogen Management Resolution at the 2022 UN Environmental Assembly. He also played a key role as Vice President of the Global Green Growth Institute and chaired the Asia Pacific Environment Authorities Forum in 2020 to 2023, fostering collaboration across 41 nations. Dr. Jasinghe is a proud alumnus of Mahinda College Galle as well as Ananda College Colombo. After graduating from Lvov State Medical Institute in former USSR, he began his medical career in Sri Lanka in 1990 as the head of accident and orthopedic service at the National Hospital of Sri Lanka. He modernized trauma management, another significant cause of unnecessary deaths in Sri Lanka, where we lose a large amount of people due to road traffic accidents. And managing during the Civil War, and pioneered the establishment of the Trauma Secretariat and introduced the trauma system management. As the Director General of Health Services, I was indeed fortunate to work with him during his tenure. And we had two catastrophic events, 2004 tsunami and the Civil War, and especially during the COVID pandemic. He was instrumental in managing the initial outbreak and preventing Sri Lanka becoming a country with increased amount of deaths. And I myself, together with my colleagues from pulmonology and medicine, as well as other specialties, had first-hand experiences of how he approached this relentless problem. And it is indeed a pleasure and an honor, sir, to invite you to deliver the chief guest address. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Dissanayake, for those words. Good evening. Guest of honor, Dr. Asela Gunawardena, DG Health. Guest of honors, Professor Anita Simmons and Professor Khan. Special guests, Dr. Subhaka Kandi. Orator tonight, Professor David Denning. Dr. Niranjan Dissanayake, the President of the College of Pulmonologists, Professor Madhegedara, others in the dais. past presidents, office bearers, council members, officials, representatives of all colleges and academia, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a pleasure for me to be with you at the 15th annual academic sessions of Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists. Thank you for inviting. I sincerely thank President and the Council for inviting me. And also organizing, bringing together leading experts of the region for these academic sessions. Pulmonary diseases remain a major public health challenge in Sri Lanka, contributing to morbidity, mortality, and economic burden. The statistics speak themselves. Chronic respiratory diseases are among the top 10 causes of death in Sri Lanka. COPD is the 5th leading cause of hospital deaths and globally the 3rd leading cause of death. Asthma affects approximately 15% of Sri Lankan children and about 10% of adults. TB remains a concern with an incidence rate of 45 per 100,000 population. Lung cancer cases are rising with over 2,000 new cases diagnosed annually. So these figures highlight the urgent need for a strong, integrated response. Let me draw your attention to nexus between environment health and respiratory health. The triple planetary crisis, the 3 major issues the world is facing, is a serious concern. And unless we remedy, unless we mitigate these 3 crises, the living being will meet Waterloo at a time that we don't know. So, therefore, it's very important to draw attention to this. And then when it comes to determinants of disease, of course, major determinants are classified as environmental and genetic. So when it comes to lung diseases, of course, overwhelming majority of reasons for lung diseases are environmental. And of course, lungs, together with skin, GE tract, they play as first line of defense against any enemy. So, therefore, out of these 3 crises, the planetary crisis, namely the climate change, biodiversity loss, and air pollution, of course, they are interlinked, interconnected. But I would like to stop at air pollution, which is, of course, which about the topic about air pollution, Dr. Disanayak mentioned, and other speakers as well. And of course, there are local reasons. Dr. Disanayak referred to mainly local reasons. But in the meantime, there are regional and global reasons, which is the big picture. And those days, when somebody comes from overseas, they used to say, the Sri Lankan air is very thin, and the they like to sort of be in Sri Lanka. But if you take last 5 to 10 years, our air has become thicker. And off and on, things get worse. Seasonally, being a transboundary reason, due to transboundary effect, with the air currents, seasonally we used to get this bad air. And this affects lung health very badly. So therefore, air pollution is a major precipitating factor for these lung conditions. And WHO estimates that 90% of people in the world breathe bad air. And also, other than the air pollution, what about micro and nanoplastics? There'll be time where oceans will have more plastics than living being. So, but this same plastic pollutes air as well, and we breathe. And when it comes to microplastics, it causes lung conditions, and then when they break alveolar capillary defense, they get into bloodstream, and then it's like putting the car into a highway, and there are a lot of exits, so therefore it can damage any organ in the system. So similarly, when it comes to epidemics, pandemics, we see that pandemics and epidemics, including COVID-19, they are of respiratory base. SARS, MERS, COVID, everything. So, touch wood, there won't be another pandemic coming in, but then we have to be cautious mainly on respiratory illnesses more than other illnesses when it comes to this as well. And if you talk of AMR, antimicrobial resistance, once again it's about in vivo, in vitro contamination of antibiotics. And I believe that in respiratory diseases we use more antibiotics than basically other illnesses. So, so there are ultimate, and then indoor air pollution is a problem. So what I wanted to say was that the respiratory issues, respiratory health is a cross-cutting issue. And I know what amount of important work that the college has been doing, and we listened to some of them from the president. And but then it is cross-cutting, and therefore I would like to invite the college to further engage with the whole of the society. Now, that's why I said I'm happy to hear, I'm happy to see that you have invited regional experts, unlike many other colleges. And I heard that you are going to set up a consortium So in terms of, for example, transboundary effect of air pollution, it's very important that as a region, we try to take care of our air and try to mitigate air pollution. Because otherwise, it will be a never-ending story. So, and in the meantime, I would like to invite college to work with the Ministry of Environment as well, because they do some work on air pollution, prevention of air pollution, and then they report on air pollution. And there are several projects always, undertaken by the Ministry of Environment and its organization called Central Environment Authority. So if you start working with them, I think there will be better results, because we cannot work this out alone. So that's the reason. So in this context, I believe even the role of pulmonologists, of course, would be evolving. So there is scope that, the pulmonologists are a major and mainstream profession when compared to many other specialties, because of the cross-cutting nature of lung health. And to ensure that primary health too play a role in respiratory health, we must implement system-wide improvements, training and capacity building. The Ministry of Health is committed to integrating pulmonology training into family medicine and primary care training programs, strengthening primary health care infrastructure, expanding access to essential pulmonary diagnostics and medicines at primary and secondary levels, and of course enhancing referral pathways. The Sri Lanka College of Pulmonology played a crucial role in shaping the future of respiratory health in Sri Lanka. I call upon, once again, pulmonologists to actively support the primary care teams through training and mentorship. Family physicians and Ministry of Health officers to integrate respiratory care into routine primary care services. Researchers to generate local evidence on cost-effective primary care interventions in pulmonology. Policymakers to ensure that National Strategic Plan for Respiratory Health prioritizes primary care interventions. So therefore, there are a lot that we have to do at the primary health care settings. So therefore, I commend the College of Pulmonologists for your unwavering dedication to this course. And I wish all the best, and I wish the deliberations of these academic sessions to be a success. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your valuable words and for sharing your vision for Sri Lankan healthcare with us. Please accept this token of appreciation by the College of Pulmonologists. Thank you, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, next we'd like to take a moment to felicitate Dr. Bodhika Samarasekara, the immediate past president of the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists, for his leadership and his invaluable contribution to the college and spearheading all its activities in his tenure of office. As he joins a long list of esteemed past presidents with this, we'd like to invite the president of the college, Dr. Ranjan Dissanayake, to read the citation, and I would like to invite Dr. Bodhika Samarasekara, the immediate past president, on stage for this felicitation.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is indeed a pleasure, honor, and a privilege to introduce to you Dr. Bodhika Samarasekara, the immediate past president of the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists for 2023-24. Gamarachige Bodhika Lasanjaka Samarasekara is the eldest son of Mr. Gimson Samarasekara and Mrs. Sunita Samarasekara. He is married to Gauri Samarasekara. He is a father of 3 lovely children, and we have seen the talents of some of them. And he completed his primary education from Tissa Central College, Kalutara, and then went into study at Royal College, Colombo. He was actually a secretary of the Agriculture Club, and he has won a prize for the best storytelling or short story, signifying his brilliance in many aspects in life. And he became the best runner-up artist at Royal College. He entered the Faculty of Medicine, University of Sri Jawatanapura in 1995 and completed his bachelor's degree in medicine and surgery in 2001. He was the president of the Medical Faculty Arts Circle. He served as vice president. He wrote the lyrics of the theme song Talents, cultural show of the faculty, and founded the secretary of the Buddhist Society as well. He has his eyes on direction of drama as well, and he has done a drama on Immune Sanya, which was awarded the 3rd place at the Inter-University Drama Festival. Dr. Samarasekara obtained his MD in medicine from University of Colombo in 2010, and he opted to train under an astute senior consultant pulmonologist, Dr. Saman Kularatna, whom we all admire. He completed his foreign training in Good Hope Hospital, Heart of England NHS Trust, Birmingham, United Kingdom, under the supervision of Dr. Tim Fletcher. After foreign training, Dr. Samarasekara was appointed to Jaffna Teaching Hospital, where he established a new respiratory unit for the use of the people of the northern province. Then he was appointed to Hambantota, and then Gampaha, during which time he led a significant medical response to the COVID pandemic, which we personally know and admire at the time of this period. So then he went into District General Hospital, Negombo, and then he is currently at National Hospital for Respiratory Diseases, Valisara. So he has served as the Honorary Joint Secretary of the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists for 3 years, 2018, 20 and 22, and provided yeoman service to the uplifting of the standards of the college. He was the treasurer in 2019. He was awarded the fellowship of the Ceylon College of Physicians in 2023 and Asia Pacific Society of Respiratory Medicine in 2024. He served as the vice president of the Government Medical Officers Association, highlighting the importance of the well-being of doctors as well as the education of doctors. He then took over the presidency of pulmonologists in 2023 during a period of economic crisis, but he brilliantly navigated all the problems that he faced with stature and determination, and brought Sri Lanka College of Pulmonology to another level during his tenure. So he started free NIV services for the patients, and during his year, was able to get en bloc membership of the World Association for Bronchology and Interventional Pulmonology. Respire 2024, for those who remember, was a huge success. We were able to bring in experts from throughout the world, which had multiple lectures and experts coming in from worldwide professionals who were expert on the topics, delivering lectures in Sri Lanka. And he and the council of the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists did a brilliant job during last year. And one of the best accolades that you can get in your lifetime is to be invited by your own alma mater to address the newest gathering of medical professionals. And he was actually invited recently, highlighting the stature he has amongst the faculty members as well as his colleagues. Ladies and gentlemen, let me present and appreciate the services of Dr. Bodhika Samarasekara on behalf of all council as well as the membership and the medical fraternity of Sri Lanka.
Thank you once again, sir, for your invaluable contribution to pulmonology and all of healthcare in Sri Lanka. Ladies and gentlemen, next we have a truly memorable moment, the launch of the official journal of the SLCP, the Sri Lankan Journal of Respiratory Medicine. This journal marks an exciting new chapter in our field, offering greater opportunities for the sharing of knowledge and research within the community. It will definitely play a key role in advancing respiratory medicine, fostering collaboration, and empowering all of us to support one another in our journey towards progress. I would now like to take this moment to invite Professor Dushantha Madagedara, the Chief Editor and the Academic Chair of SLCP, to introduce the journal to this audience.
Good evening. The Chief Guest of the Day, Dr. Anil Jayasinghe, the Secretary, Ministry of Health, and the Guest of Honor, Dr. Asela Gunawardena, Director General of Health Service, and Dr. Professor Anita Simmons, and the orator of the oration today, Professor David Dennings, Presidents and the Councils of Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists, and our colleagues from the regional societies representing the neighboring countries and all invitees. It is with immense pride and great honor that I stand before you today as a Chief Editor of the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists and our esteemed journal. The moment marks the significant milestones in the history of our respiratory community in Sri Lanka. Our story began with the formation of the Respiratory Study Group, visionary initiative led by dedicated respiratory physicians, few pediatricians, and other specialists with a keen interest in respiratory medicine. The collaborative effort provides the foundation for knowledge sharing, research, and the professional development. Recognizing the need for dedicated professional body, we took the next step and established the Association of Pulmonologists with just 9 members as a founder members of the societies. And that's the number we had during that time. This was a bold yet essential move towards advancing the field of respiratory medicine in Sri Lanka. Over time, as our presence and the contribution grew, we evolved into the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists in 2014. Solidifying our role as the leading professional body for respiratory medicine in the country. A vital component of our journey was the creation of our official journal, Respire, in in 2009. This initiative was born out of our desire to establish credible peer review platform to promote high-quality respiratory research. Our first volume was proudly presented to our inaugural annual session, both locally to then the Secretary of the Health Services, Dr. Atula Kahandalinage, then the guest of honor that inaugural annual session. It is there. Okay, all right. Annual session, the presidents of Ceylon College of Physicians. Internationally, we were honored to present it to the presidents of the European Respiratory Society. Then I was a national delegate of European Respiratory Society. Position of Sri Lanka on the global map of respiratory research. And this happened during the presidency of Dr. Kirti Gunasekara, first inaugural session, first session of a Respire. Since then, Respire has consistently published 2 volumes per year, serving as a vital avenue for scientific discourse, innovative research, and collaboration. It has provided Sri Lankan medical professionals, researchers, and international scholars an opportunity to publish and exchange knowledge, driving progress in the field of respiratory medicine. Today, as we celebrate Respire 15, we embrace a new chapter in our continuous quest to strengthen our academic and scientific presence. We are rebranding our journal as a Sri Lanka Journal of Respiratory Medicine. This transformation symbolizes our growth and our ambition and our commitment to the excellence. This name change is not just a rebranding, it represents our unwavering dedication to elaborating respiratory medicine in Sri Lanka and beyond. With this new identity, we aim to expand our reach, improve international collaboration, and position the journal for broader indexing and recognitions. Our local and international editorial board, which include esteemed respiratory physicians from the multiple countries, will continue to uphold the highest standards of academic integrity and innovations. As we move forward, our vision is clear to establish Sri Lanka Journal of Respiratory Medicine as a premier respiratory journal in the region. We aspire to increase the frequency of publication, ensuring timely dissemination of crucial research, strengthen the collaboration with the global respiratory societies and institutions, and provide more opportunities for early career researchers and clinicians to publish their work, expand our digital presence to make research more accessible to a wider audience. On a personal note, it has been an extraordinary privilege to serve as the first chief editor of Respire and to continue in the role today. Seeing our journal evolve, adapt, and reach new heights has been a deeply fulfilling journey. I am immensely grateful to my fellow editors, our dedicated contributors, and the unwavering support of the Council of the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists. Your commitment has been instrumental in bringing us to this pivotal moment. Let us take a moment to celebrate Respire 15 with a pride and enthusiasm. This achievement is not just about the past 15 years, but about the foundation we are laying for the next generation. Let us continue working together to push the boundaries of respiratory medicine. The many speakers from the regional societies talking about that. I just like to mention my Bangladesh colleagues. We were planning to establish SARC Society of Respiratory Medicine nearly, remember, like 10 years before, but due to different reasons, we could not able to. Hopefully, we will start very soon. And to this, to innovate and to ensure that Sri Lanka remain the leader in this field. Thank you all for your dedication, hard work, and belief in this version. Together, we are continuing in advance respiratory medicine both locally and globally. And I must apologize few of our the researchers. We could not able to publish some papers this issue because of the time factor. And I must mention my assistant editor, Professor Duminda Asaratna, his dedication, and our previous editor, this assistant editor like Upul Patirana, were doing hard work and helping me in various ways. And more than anything, they all were my own trainees and the main stakeholders of the current society, and most of them are my own trainees. I'm very, very happy to stand here as a scientific chair as well as a chief editor. And this is time our juniors, very well dedicated, highly talented juniors, to take up this position. We have brought them for the last 15 years. Now time is to hand over them to continue. And thank you very much for listening. And I think we will launch our new journal. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I would now like to take this moment to invite Professor Dushantha Madhagadar, the Chief Editor, and the President of the College, Dr. Niranjan Dissanayake, to present the first editions of the journal to the dignitaries seated at the head table. I would also like to invite Professor Duminda Asaratna, the Assistant Editor of the journal, to present the journal to the special guests in the audience. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now reached the highlight of tonight's agenda, the prestigious C.G. Uragoda Oration, tonight delivered by Professor David Denning, Professor of Infectious Diseases and Global Health, University of Manchester, United Kingdom. I would now like to invite the President, Dr. Niranjan Dissanayake, to introduce the orator to this esteemed audience.
Good evening, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a pleasure and honor to invite Professor David W. Denning to deliver the prestigious C.G. Uragoda Oration. Professor David W. Denning is a distinguished expert in infectious diseases and global health at the University of Manchester, with over 40 years of clinical experience specializing in fungal diseases. He founded and served as the Chief Executive Officer of the Global Action for Fungal Infection from 2013 to 2023. An international advocacy NGO dedicated to ensuring universal access to fungal diagnostics and antifungal therapies. From 2009 to 2020, he led the UK's National Aspergillosis Centre in Manchester. It's almost, it is the world-renowned center that we look up to, managing an annual budget of approximately 7 million Great Britain pounds. He's a prolific researcher, Professor Dennings has authored over 800 academic publications, contributing significantly to the field with an H index of 137 and over 110,000 citations. He has played a key role in developing international guidelines for the diagnosis and treatment of serious fungal diseases. Additionally, he leads the leading international fungal education life, an initiative aimed at improving patient outcomes through online education. His contributions extend to the commercial sector, having founded 2 university spin-out companies, F2G, which developed a novel antifungal currently in phase 3 trials, and Myconostica, the pioneer in commercializing PCR tests for aspergillosis and pneumocystis detection. He also served as the managing editor of Aspergillus website since 1998. He will be delivering the Oration on a conundrum that we face on a daily basis. And without much deliberations, I would like to kindly invite Professor Dennings to kindly accept the medal for the oration and proceed with his oration.
We do the medal first, do we? So I'm very aware that I'm standing between you and a drink or something to eat, so I will be brief as best as I can be, although I wasn't expecting us to be a little as late as this. It's a real privilege to be here. Thank you very much for the invitation. I do very much value it. I'm going to talk about this disease, which was first described in 1842 in Edinburgh by Dr. Bennett. The first radiology image of an aspergilloma was in 1938 from Rouen in Paris by Deve. The first treatment of this disease with amphotericin, which works, was in Michigan, in Ann Arbor, by Dr. Cummington in 1959. And the first serological tests for this disease were developed at the Brompton Hospital in the early 1960s by Dr. Jack Pepys. And I'm going to update you 65 years later about where we are with a disease that many people don't know much about. And it is a pretty complex problem. But first, I need to go to speak, if I can get this to work. Oh, am I doing the wrong one? I'm clearly doing the wrong one. Is it this one? Oh, sorry, I'm trying to get to the next slide. Where do I shine it? I don't know why it's not working. No, what was I not doing right? Okay, so I never had the privilege. Sorry, I never had the privilege to meet Dr. Uragada, but I think he's clearly a father figure for medicine in this country, with a particular focus on pulmonary infections and occupational lung disease. He graduated from the Ceylon Medical Academy faculty in 1953. He was the physician in charge of the Central Chest Clinic in Colombo, then moved to Wellisara, which is now a National Hospital for Respiratory Diseases. His first publication that I could find was in 1959, and it was on the surgery of tuberculosis. And his last publication was on the impact of preparing chili as an occupational lung disease. And he's written multiple chest textbooks. But I want to call out one of his publications because it's relevant to my field, that is to say, histoplasmosis. So he did the one and only survey of exposure to Histoplasma capsulatum, an airborne fungus which is endemic in Sri Lanka. And this graph on the left-hand side shows the skin test reactivity, so very much like a skin test, a Montu test for TB. And you can see some very strongly positive reactions from all of the red areas in your country. And interestingly, he never actually described a case of this disease. The two people who worked with me in Manchester and trained in mycology, Dr. Shumithra and Dr. Pramali, who co-authored this review, noted that, and it was a bit of a surprise to us. So Dr. Uragada had many other accolades. He was president of multiple organizations that you can see here. I won't read them all out. He was the joint editor of the Ceylon Medical Journal for 20 years. He was editor of the Journal of the Ceylon College of Physicians, of the National Academy of Sciences Journal, and he was on the WHO expert panel for TB and chest diseases for 20 years. And he has a long list of distinguished accolades. This is a true giant of medicine, and you, I think, have been very fortunate to have him amongst your fraternity for so long in this country. Now I want you to meet a patient of mine called Roger. Roger was he was from Manchester, but he was living in Vancouver, and he was the first and only referral that I've had from Vancouver. He came with this infiltrate to the physicians in the Peters Hospital in Vancouver, and those of you who look after these types of patients would look at a lesion like that and be suspicious about malignancy because he was a smoker or TB or something, and they did a CT scan, and you have a spiculated infiltrate there, and so clearly this needs surgical exploration. And this was in December 1991, and they did a right upper lobectomy, and the pathology showed a small cavity with a granuloma. They thought it might be TB, they weren't sure, and a few aspergillus hyphae in it. So they treated him for tuberculosis, and he decided to come back to the UK. And that was when he was referred to me. And nearly a year later, he developed a new cavity in what was his right lower lobe, now in his right upper chest. And we didn't know what this cavity was. Is this invasive aspergillosis? Is this cancer which has appeared in a new place? Is it TB? What is it? So we put a needle into it, and we had a pure growth of Aspergillus fumigatus from it, and he had a strongly positive Aspergillus antibody. So, what is the diagnosis? Has he got an aspergilloma? No, because there's no fungal ball, right? What is this disease? And I was not clear. I knew a lot about aspergillosis, I read the literature, and I still didn't know what was wrong with this man. And so, with his case and another 17 cases, I wrote 10 years later a paper describing this entity in non-immunocompromised people with cavitary disease, usually of the upper lobe, usually unilateral, but sometimes bilateral. And Roger was case number 2, and he was a smoker with a mild degree of airflow obstruction, this right upper lobe lesion. And here he is many years later on voriconazole, and as many of you know who've used voriconazole, it gives you a photosensitivity and you can go bright red, and he was bright red with the drug, and he managed it for about 7 months before he stopped. But he was one of the first 5 patients in the world treated with voriconazole. And we coined the term chronic cavitary pulmonary aspergillosis to follow the nomenclature of histoplasmosis and coccidioidomycosis. The previous terminology was developed by the surgical fraternity, and they had simple aspergilloma or complex aspergilloma. But if you don't have an aspergilloma, what is it? And the evolution of this disease radiologically was rather remarkable. So you can see at different time points, he developed really quite a lot of change within this area of cavitation. These are years apart, these images. And we finally got control of his disease after itraconazole, which originally failed, amphotericin, voriconazole, and then 5 years of itraconazole, long term. And he was stable, he was completely well, he would come to clinic 3 times a year, he would say he was fine, we would do his x-rays and imaging, and we thought, do we really need to carry on with this drug, itraconazole? So we stopped. He was immediately relapsed, and his CRP and ESR went up. They're not always raised in patients with CPA. His aspergillus precipitans went up. That's a key element of diagnosis and following therapy. The titers, if they're done well, are very helpful. And we put him back on itraconazole. And Roger then ended up with about 30 years duration of antifungal therapy. 30 years. I don't know how often you've treated patients for that long with anything, apart from blood pressure tablets or insulin, but that's a long time. So switching gears, about a year ago, I published a paper in Lancet Infectious Diseases trying to estimate how many fungal infections there are in the world. And this was not easy. Nobody had really done it before in any systematic way. And probably there are about 6.5 million new patients with different forms of fungal infection. About 3.8 million deaths, of about 2.5 attributable. So clearly, if you have leukemia, which relapses, and you no more treatment available, and then you get aspergillosis and die, that's probably not an attributable death, right? That's a leukemic death. But there are many patients who die of the fungal infection directly. This would not have been possible without all of the inputs which we have had through Gafi, through all the ambassador network, and you'll notice that Primali's face is on here for Sri Lanka, as contributors of many sorts to the global effort to get fungal disease better recognized at the WHO and other things. And this is one of the ways of summarizing that data, and I'll talk about this in a little bit more detail on Tuesday. But in chronic pulmonary aspergillosis, you can see there are probably about 1.8 million new patients a year across the world. That's modeled primarily on tuberculosis and missing the accurate diagnosis of TB, and probably about 1/3 deaths each year. So, as you know, there are a bit over 1 million, 1.2, 1.5 million deaths from TB every year. Probably 300,000 of those deaths attributed to TB are not TB. They're actually fungus, aspergillosis. And we did this work in India in detail, and Dr. Candy might find this of interest because India has the largest population of TB patients on the planet, approximately 2 million cases a year and approximately 500,000 deaths. And with all the work that we've done across the world over the last 15 years on this disease, we think that there's probably about 200,000 initial misdiagnoses of TB. So 10% of the TB cases in India aren't TB. It's one problem. And then about 150,000 patients who develop CPA during the course of their TB or finish their and cured of TB, but are left with CPA, usually with cavities. And that gives an annual incidence, as you can see, of about 360,000. If you look at the patients who develop TB after many years or after they've recovered from their TB and been cured, you get cases every year, and there's probably about 1.5 million in India, and probably about 140,000 deaths. It might be slightly lower than that because we've re-looked at the mortality figures, and it's a little bit less for TB because some of the patients are younger. But it's still a lot of people who are probably misdiagnosed. You have less TB in Sri Lanka, but around 14,000 cases of all forms of TB and about 800 some deaths each year. And if you look at the number who are tested with rapid diagnostics, only 27%, which is not a very high figure compared with some of the other countries in the world. 74% pulmonary, but notably 75% are confirmed cases of TB and 25% are not. Now, sometimes that's because the patient can't produce sputum and you can't bronchoscope the patient, or they disappear or whatever, but sometimes because they have negative tests. And in that group, probably about 20%, maybe a few more, have aspergillosis. So that's several hundred cases a year which need to be diagnosed and picked up. But it's more complicated than that, and this piece of work from Pakistan, and there's an excellent group at the Aga Khan in Karachi who've looked at this disease and really understand it quite well. And you can see that there are patients with previous tuberculosis coming up in their group. This is not just CPA, this includes invasive disease and other things as well. But 39% had previous TB, but 13% had active TB at the same time. So you can have CPA and TB. And we've done some work in Indonesia, and I haven't got the slides, showing that that's particularly true for MDR TB, because they have a lot of cavitation with MDR TB, and cavitation is a big risk factor for CPA. And after you've been cured of your TB, you can then come back with CPA. And this study from Brazil, not a very big study, looked over 30-something years at when those patients came back. And you can see patients are coming back with CPA years and years, decades after they've been cured of tuberculosis. And other work we've done from Vietnam, from others have done in India, been done a little bit in Kenya and in Ghana. Over 50% of the people with possible recurrent TB who come back with symptoms have aspergillosis. 50%. So this group of patients is particularly tricky. And if they have very severe hemoptysis and you cannot operate, this small series in Brazil suggested you could give radiotherapy. It's the only series in the world suggested that, but it may be helpful. So there's also other things. There's atypical TB or NTMs. There's ABPA patients who get CPA, patients with COPD and emphysema, particularly if you've got bullous disease, upper lobe bullous disease, pneumothorax, lung cancer, sarcoidosis, thoracic surgery, and so on. And at the bottom, you will see a group of patients who have no underlying disease who just get aspergillosis. And the work that we haven't yet finished, we've been doing it for 10 years, clearly indicates there are genetic factors underlying this. We're fairly sure that it's a multigenic disease for many of these patients, and it's not manifest until later in life. So they present with symptoms you're familiar with, that is cough, shortness of breath, weight loss, tiredness, and the tiredness and fatigue is often quite profound in these patients. They're very, very tired, many of these patients. They cough up blood, more blood than with TB usually, not just a smear, but real blood, a bit of chest ache, but not pain per se, unless they've coughed too much and they've got a rib fracture. Only a few of them have fever. Fever is very uncommon. If they have fever, they probably have a concurrent bacterial infection as well. And the comorbidity is common. The hemoptysis is quite marked, as I've said. It's really quite a big deal, and some of them die of hemoptysis, so this does need addressing. But the other trick here is that many of these patients have almost no symptoms. This is a very quiet infection. It's not like pneumococcal pneumonia or severe COVID. This is very subtle. And so these patients come to clinic and you do a chest x-ray and you think, oh, they're all right. They're not complaining much. Psst, go away. I don't need to do anything with you. And let me show you an example of that in a minute. And it's also really easy to mistake TB and CPA. Here are two x-rays where they look pretty similar. And if you haven't got a really good radiology support, or you're not sure, or you haven't got tests, it's really easy to just diagnose TB. And in many, many centers around the world, they have TB clinics, and they have 3 differential diagnoses. It's TB, TB, or TB. And the treatment for TB is free, and all the other treatments the patients have to pay for. So what do you diagnose? TB, and you treat them for TB. So this is part of the sort of problem with the disease. It's not enough thought. You shouldn't have that problem here, because you do have this. So there are different patterns of disease. There's the simple or single aspergilloma. There are patients with nodules, which can look like lung cancer. There are patients with subacute invasive disease who are a little immunocompromised, on some steroid, diabetic, on a bit of chemotherapy for CLL or something like that, late-stage HIV. They need to be treated as invasive disease. The big group is the chronic cavitary group, sometimes with an aspergilloma, sometimes not, and those can progress to chronic fibrosing. So the simple aspergilloma, a young lady from Pakistan who came over, recently got married, coughed up blood, was otherwise quite asymptomatic, had not yet had a family. You can't take itraconazole and get pregnant. So she was fit and well. She had a lobectomy, cured. So this is great. But in our experience, it's about 5% of the patients. It's not very many of them, but it's great when it happens. And look at this lady who had a pneumothorax. She had a pneumothorax. This is post-pneumothorax 2012, and she comes back and she's fine. She's absolutely fine. A year later, she has a chest x-ray, which is not quite the same, as you can see. So her right lung is just a little not quite right, but she's asymptomatic. A year later, now the lung is not looking good at all. Asymptomatic. No action taken. because in clinic she's asymptomatic. So the young doctors that see her say, you're fine, off you go, you haven't got any symptoms. And that's what happened 4 years after that. And now she's got chronic fibrosing pulmonary aspergillosis and she's lost the whole of the right lung. And so one of the key objectives of treatment in these patients is to prevent fibrosis. It's not just to treat symptoms, you're trying to prevent fibrosis and hemoptysis. And that's a big factor. And it's challenging, this, radiologically it's challenging. This patient happened to have a PET scan because they didn't know if he had cancer or not, and you can see it's lit up at his left apex. And this cavity in his left apex on the CT scan has got a big irregular edge, lots of irregularity in it. That's all fungal growth. The whole lot is fungal growth around that. And had we taken that out, this is what it would have looked like, all these plaques of fungus on the inside of that cavity. So when you see irregularity on a cavity, you have to think, is this fungus? Not a fungal ball, just irregularity. And if you do see a fungal ball, the prognosis is worse, and if it's bilateral, it's even worse again. This is some data from our centre. So this man from India, living in the UK, he'd had TB twice, proven twice, treated twice, cured twice, except clearly not cured the first time. Then he comes with a new cough. He's working full time, he's busy, he's not actually too bad, but his chest x-ray has changed. So they then do an aspergillus antibody, it's strongly positive, and just to emphasize, an aspergillus antibody is the key test for this disease. That is the test that has to be done, all right, an aspergillus IgG antibody. Normal CRP, normal plasma viscosity. So I told you this was a quiet disease, it is quiet from an inflammatory perspective as well. And then he had a CT scan, obviously, because there was a change in his chest x-ray, and he's got multiple cavities and some pleural thickening in that, in his right apex. And then they did a PET scan because they thought, oh, maybe he's got cancer. And you can see that this is a pleural inflammation disease. Loads and loads of pleural inflammation. And actually, if you look carefully, you can see 3 fungal balls on that PET scan. It's at about 5 o'clock on the top image. I need to put my glasses on for the other. I think it's about 2 o'clock in the next image down. And then the bottom one is about 10 o'clock. So he's got actually 3 fungal balls, these little grey areas which don't light up. And that's one of the problems we have, is actually seeing these things and knowing that they're there radiologically is tricky. So 3 components of diagnosis: symptoms, except that not all the patients have it; radiology, which is tough to interpret; and aspergillus IgG antibody, which can be positive for other reasons. So you put all those 3 together, and then you end up with usually a confirmed diagnosis of CPA. But it's tricky. Some of the cases are not obvious, and it can be a difficult diagnosis. The European guidelines that we published in 2016 recommended that radiologists or radiologists in general, if they see images which look like TB and there's pleural thickening or cavitation, they should also mention aspergillus in the report, so that the young doctor who never heard of CPA and aspergilloma thinks, oh, which test do I do for that? And they can ask a question and they can send an aspergillus antibody test. And that's one of the things that's missing across the world, is actually thinking about something other than tuberculosis. There is a lateral flow assay for this disease. It's come out of France. It works pretty well. This is a nice study from Chandigarh. There's another study from AIMS in Delhi, which shows not quite such good performance, but still pretty good. But I caution you that it's 86.7% sensitive. So that means 13.3% are falsely negative. Okay? So roughly 1 in 7, 1 in 8 are falsely negative. So labs need to do 2 tests. You need to have another test, and you also need to be able to take specimens for fungal culture, which are frequently negative, but they are there. And one of the things that we did do in Manchester was to look at how we did fungal culture. And if you take the whole specimen and you put it on a fungal plate, you get a much higher yield than if you just take a little bit of the sample and spread it out. So there needs to be a shift in mycology diagnosis with sputum. And we also know that if you take 2 or 3 specimens, just like with TB, you're more likely to grow the organism. So keep trying, keep sending a specimen, and ask for fungal culture. Don't just ask for culture, because bacterial plates don't grow fungus very well. They do grow it a bit, but not very well. You can also do PCR, or you can do a bronchoscopy, and you can do culture microscopy and an antigen test, aspergillus antigen test on the bronchoscopy fluid. And that's pretty good, about 60-70% sensitivity. Not perfect, but again, it's another way of reaching what can be a tough diagnosis. So we treat this with oral azoles. That's the usual standard treatment. Itraconazole is the standard treatment. Some of the patients are treated with voriconazole, and if the patients are really sick, then we can give them amphotericin, or we can give them caspofungin. And this very nice RCT from Chandigarh, led by Inderpal Segal, who working with Arunaluki Chakrabarti and Ritesh Agarwal up there, looked at the duration of therapy, and they got a better response if you can treat for 12 months than if you treat for 6 months, and you also have a lower relapse rate. And so I talked to you about Roger, who relapsed after 5 years of itraconazole. Probably this 6 to 12 month dialogue is not really the right dialogue, actually. It probably should be, can I get away with a short period of treatment of these patients and stop treatment and have them in remission for long periods off therapy? Or have I got a patient that's going to relapse a lot and I just need to keep going? And we haven't got there with the science yet. The evidence base is not there to sort that out in many ways. So I caution those of you who prescribe antifungals to be careful. There are loads of drug interactions, particularly with itraconazole and voriconazole, and these severe line across the top here are potentially fatal or drug interactions. So bedaquiline you can't give with an azole, for example, if you have an MDR-TB, because you get QTc prolongation. You can't give rifampicin with an azole because you have undetectable azoles. You can't give carbamazepine phenytoin with an azole because you have undetectable azole levels. So check, and this database, which is updated every week, and it's very comprehensive, is free to all, it's easy to find, and have a look at that and take that. And my last slide is for those of you who end up with surgery. You will have patients who you want to take to surgery, or patients with nodules or cavities. You're not sure what the right diagnosis is, and you want to take them surgery. And if you think it might be aspergillosis, if there's a possibility, give them antifungals before surgery and during surgery. If you wait until you've got a diagnosis afterwards, you can see quite clearly in this Kaplan-Meier that the relapse rate is much higher if you haven't given pre-treatment. And also, for those of you who work with the surgeons quite a bit, sometimes these things are quite difficult to get out because they're all stuck at the top of the lung. It's really difficult, and you have to peel it off, and it's a very slow process. If the cavity ruptures during surgery and you end up with aspergillus in the pleural cavity, that's a patient that absolutely needs treatment, because otherwise you'll end up with pleural aspergillosis, and that's a really difficult entity to treat. So we wash that cavity out with amphotericin during surgery. We just get the pharmacy to make it up and bring it up before we close the chest or do anything, and then we really give the patient a lot of therapy if that cavity is ruptured during surgery. If it's taken out intact, then you can often get away with it. There's lots more I could say, but I won't. I think it's time for us to move on to the next phase, which is talking to each other and having a nice drink. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much, sir, for your very enlightening talk and giving us much food for thought. Please accept this token of appreciation presented to you by the President of the Sri Lanka College of Pulmonologists. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have now almost reached the end of tonight's inauguration ceremony. We would like to express our sincere appreciation to all those who have joined us today and to all those who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to make this evening and the rest of the conference a possibility. To do this task, I would now like to invite Dr. Upul Pathirana, Joint Secretary of the College, to propose the vote of thanks.
Thank you very much. Good evening. Chief guest, Dr. Anil Jasinghe, Secretary, Ministry of Health and Mass Media. Guest of honor, Dr. Asela Gunawardena, Director General of Health Services. Guest of honor, Professor Anita Siemens. And the orator of the late Dr. C.G. Uragoda Oration, Professor David Dennings. Family members of Dr. C.G. Uragoda, members of the council, the speakers, resource persons and chairpersons of the scientific program, special guests and distinguished invitees, my dear colleagues, ladies and gentlemen. Before we wind up, it is my pleasant task to thank everyone who helped us in many ways to make this event a success. First and foremost, I would like to express my deepest gratitude to Dr. Anil Jasinghe, our chief guest, for gracing the occasion. It was an honor to have you, sir, and Dr. Asela Gunawardena, our guest of honor. Sir, thank you for being with us amidst of your busy schedule. Your presence today is invaluable. Professor Anita Siemens, our guest of honor, Madam, and your presence here is a huge honor to the college. Next, my heartfelt thanks go to our orator today, Professor David Dennings, Professor of Infectious Diseases and Global Health at the University of Manchester, UK. Thank you, sir, for delivering an excellent oration and sharing your knowledge and experience with us today. It was a privilege to have you here. To the family members of late Dr. C.G. Uragoda, thank you for being with us today. Your continuous support to the college means a lot to us. All the distinguished invitees, representatives from the Ministry of Health, colleges, and societies, thank you for your presence and adding glamour to the event. I wish to take this opportunity to thank all the resource persons and chairpersons in the upcoming scientific sessions, both from Sri Lanka and overseas. Organizing 6 symposia, 6 guest lectures, 2 Respire sessions, 2 stakeholder meetings, 1 breakout session, and 3 workshops is a tremendous task that require time, commitment, and shared knowledge. Thank you for your dedication. To the foreign faculty with us today, I extend a warm welcome to Sri Lanka and thank you for taking the time to visit us in person. I would like to thank Dr. Dilesha Vadasinghe for her excellent work in coordinating the workshop on NIV in neuromuscular diseases and chest wall disorders, and Dr. Hasita Gajavira for organizing the allergy testing workshop, and Dr. Channa De Silva for his commitment to arrange breakout session on sleep disordered breathing in children, and Dr. Bodhika Samarsekara for his invaluable support for the thoracic ultrasound workshop. A special mention goes to Dr. Ruanti Jayasekara and her team for reviewing 78 abstracts submitted for the Congress. And we also thank our external judges, Dr. Chiranti Liyanage, Dr. Chana Kaberatna, Dr. Murali Vallipuranathan, Dr. Kishara Gunaratna, Dr. Shehan Silva, Dr. Duminda Gomindapala, Dr. Senaka Pilapitiya, and Dr. Sumal Nandasena. Ladies and gentlemen, Respire 15 is a massive task, meticulously organized and executed over the last few months. It is an enormous teamwork that fueled the success of this endeavor. A special thanks goes to our event management team, H&A Consulting and Events, led by Ms. Nimalka Morahelar, and audio-visual specialist Impress Events, led by Mr. Nalina Vanasinghe. for their excellent work. My sincere thanks also goes to Mrs. Sonali Lakma, Mrs. Ramya Inos, and Mrs. Anagi Kondegama, our college office secretaries, for their unwavering commitment. We thank the management and staff of Cinnamon Grand Colombo for their support. And also floral and photographic teams, our compeers, Dr. Kalani Kulatilaka, Dr. Madhavi Dalvis, Dr. Chathuri Ranasinghe, singers, cultural troops for their outstanding contributions. An event of this scale would not be possible without the support of our sponsors, especially our diamond sponsors, Cipla Pharma and Technomedics Lanka Private Limited, and platinum sponsors Lupin Pharma, Lina, Emergent Pharma, AstraZeneca, Gamma Interpharm, and Getz Pharma, along with all other gold, silver, and bronze sponsors. An academic session would not be successful without the enthusiastic participation of all the delegates. Thank you for your engagement. Finally, let me to take the last few moments to express my gratitude to our family of pulmonologists. To Dr. Niranjan Disanayaka, our president this year, 2024 and 2025, thank you for your leadership during this year. Special thanks to our academic committee, Professor Dushantha Medagadara, and members of the excellent lineup of the scientific program. My heartfelt thanks go to all members of the college. Your contributions, whether inviting speakers from overseas as resource persons, chairpersons, judges, creators, or performers, are deeply appreciated. A special acknowledgement to my co-secretary, Dr. Sachini Senaviratna, our treasurer, Dr. Damit Rodrigo, and my fellow members of the council for your enthusiasm, commitment, hard work, and the memorable moments we have shared. Ladies and gentlemen, I wish you all an interesting scientific deliberation in the coming 2 days. Thank you very much and have a pleasant evening.
Do you cross your heart when you hope to die? Are you sleeping deep in the hurricane? Ivy's in the arm, forgetting to feel. We're crawling on all fours. Would you crawl on your sword? At the second coming, you gotta taste the ash and dust. 'Cause this world is dying in our arms. And now the wheels are turning. What would you do to stay alive if the planet was burning? You wanna make your hell a reality. Black lungs for the young if the dead to breathe. Oh, just sounds like heaven to me. You gotta cut the roots to kill the weeds. No place to go if you don't believe. Oh, good Lord, it's enough to plague a saint. Give us a Judas dear we can deify. Yeah, we all pretend we're the renegades. So watch us away, garroted by a halo. Take a bow 'cause time's running out. There's no doubt that the end is coming. You gotta taste the ash and dust. 'Cause this world is dying in our arms. Now the wheels are turning. What would you do to stay alive if the planet is burning? You wanna make your hell a reality. Black lungs for the young if they're dead to breathe. Whoa, Sure sounds like heaven to me. You gotta cut the roots to kill the weeds. No place to go if you don't believe. Oh, good Lord, it's enough to plague a saint. Good Lord, it's enough to plague a saint. Post-love, post-truth, justice lays brown and black bagged ready for the guillotine. We can all plead guilty if the cry, where were you when the gods killed the wings of the phoenix? They clip the wings of the phoenix. You wanna make your hell a reality. Back lungs for the young if they're dead to breathe. If they're dead to breathe. Oh, sure sounds like heaven to me. You gotta cut the roots to kill the weeds. No place to go if you don't believe. If you don't believe. Oh, good Lord, it's enough to plague a saint. Good Lord, it's enough to plague a saint. Good Lord, it's enough to plague a saint. We can all plead guilty if they ask where were you when the gods clipped the wings of the phoenix.
Thank you very much for that mesmerizing cover of Black Lung by a heavy metal band called The Architect. And I'm sure the song and everything was self-explanatory of the misfortunes that we have to bear witness to in this time and day. A huge round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, to Dr. Yamuna Balasurya, consultant respiratory physician, senior lecturer at the Department of Anatomy, Genetics, and Biomedical Informatics at the Faculty of Medicine, University of Colombo, who was joined by her own daughter, Minara Rajapaksa. Together, they are a dynamic mom-daughter duo who are also part of a band called Glass Chains, where they are as lead vocalist and bassists in turn. So, ladies and gentlemen, shall we give it up to Dr. Yamuna Rajapaksa and Dr. Minara Rajapaksa, her daughter, for that fantastic performance. On that note, ladies and gentlemen, we'd now like to wrap up tonight's proceedings. Thank you very much for being a very engaging audience tonight. We look forward to tomorrow and the day after for a fruitful session with all of you at Respire 2025. Please do rise as the ceremonial procession leaves the main hall and join us for fellowship and drinks afterwards. Thank you and good night.